Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Tell the Truth Day, Tony. You got any confessions you'd like to make?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Lufthansa heist in 1978. That was me.
Yeah, I was looking for something a little juicier than that. You know, a little more insider. A little more revealing.
That's pretty inside. That was
Gossipy.
a heist from the airport. That was a pretty good deal. It led to a pretty good movie. Maybe you saw Goodfellas. Maybe you didn't see it 15 times like I did, but maybe you saw it once. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Nats clean house. Mexico beats the United States for the Gold Cup, and two outfielders make impressive throws. But we're going to begin today with Wimbledon. Men's number one seed Jannik Sinner was in real peril this afternoon when he got a big break. 19th-seeded Grigor Dimitrov was up 2-0 and tied at 2 games apiece in the third when he appeared to tear a pectoral muscle while serving. The 34-year-old Bulgarian retired from the match, so Sinner advances to face 10th-seeded Ben Shelton. Wilbon, your reaction to the end of this match and what it means for the rest of the tournament?
Tony, the whole thing is unbelievable. I mean, the backstory's unbelievable, which we'll get to in a second, about Dimitrov, the Bulgarian who's 34 years old and has been as high as the number 3 ranked player in the world. But he has these things. So he's leading 2-0 against Sinner. And they're tussling in the third set. And you're like, whoa, is Sinner the number 1 seed, the number 1 player in the world? Is he going to go out here? Or is he going to have to be involved in some 5-set thriller? What's going to happen? And then you get this injury, this torn pec. And then the backstory, of course, is that Dimitrov, it's his 5th consecutive major where he's had to retire because of an injury, and the 10th time in his career from a major. Not all matches, not all tournaments, from majors. And it's just not possible. And so the drama of it, and Ben Shelton, you know, I told you last week briefly, I think that Ben Shelton can insert himself with Alcaraz and Sinner. He's got the game, he's got the swag, he's got the personal life, the glamour, he's got all of it. He needs to win. But I think Shelton can do that, and now he squares off against Sinner.
Yeah. So Dimitrov is Joel Embiid. He can't stay out there. He's a highly skilled guy who can't stay out there. 5 straight, man.
Unbelievable.
10 overall
Unbelievable.
is wacky, but 5 straight is unbelievable. Look, there was going to be a domino effect. Had Sinner lost, it would open up the draw, his side of the draw, for Djokovic, who won today while losing the first set. That would have been a big deal. Secondarily, Shelton, who you love tremendously, Shelton would not have had to play Sinner as he does have to play him now. He would get Dimitrov, which is a different deal altogether. And Alcaraz would become a heavier favorite because the other side of the draw would be diminished without the number 1 seed. As I watched it, I had that sense, Mike, as I'm sure you did too, that every time he moved, he was in pain and it wasn't going to work. It just wasn't going to work. He was going to have to leave. No, we move now to next week. We move now to next week's baseball All-Star Game rosters being set, and of course, the debate over who got snubbed. The biggest names not to make it are Juan Soto, the highest-paid player in baseball, and Mookie Betts, who is not an All-Star for the first time since 2015. Wilbon, did any All-Star snubs stand out to you personally?
Yeah, those guys play in New York and L.A. What a shock their names would come up first. And you labeled it properly, biggest names. Either one of them got 77 runs batted in so far before the All-Star break? No. No, they don't.
No.
Either one got 24 home runs? No. Either one play for a team which has the best plus-minus of anybody in Major League Baseball? No, the Cubs have that. And that player would be Seiya Suzuki. He has those credentials. The other two you mentioned, stars that they are and their gazillion-dollar salaries, do not. So Seiya Suzuki, on the first place Cubs, is my snub.
Yeah, so my feeling about people who get snubbed in the All-Star game is the same feeling I have when there's a hue and cry about teams that get snubbed in the NCAA basketball tournament. They are usually 5th or 6th place teams in their conference, and they're saying we want to be the 68th team. And my reaction to this is, just tell it to somebody who cares, because you have proven, we have seen it with our own eyes, that you can't win this tournament. Now, I have a little bit more sympathy for people in baseball who get snubbed, but this is going to continually happen as long as they keep this silly rule that every single team has to have at least one representative in the All-Star game, like the Miami Marlins. I mean, this is crazy. It does not make the competition better because you take a better player out of play. It does not diminish the television ratings or help the television ratings, because the ratings exist because of Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. It's a small, condescending rule. And yes, I mean, in answer to your direct plea, yeah, if a guy's leading the league in RBI, he should be an all-star.
Yes,
you're watering this down by forcing those people to the sidelines because everybody's got to have at least one. It's wrong.
Seiya Suzuki doesn't seem to have what we've seen so far, the personality to put a chip on his shoulder and be angry the rest of the summer at being left off. I wish he did, because I'd like to be armed with that going against the Cardinals and Brewers. But that's not Suzuki's personality, apparently, and so he'll just roll with it. But seriously, come on now. Let's move to management changes for your Washington Nationals, Tony. The franchise fired manager Davey Martinez and president of baseball ops Mike Rizzo yesterday. The duo only led the team to a World Series in 2019, but as you point out, the Nationals have struggled in recent years and sit 16 games under as we near the All-Star break. Tone, was this the right call and the right time?
Okay, so I'm not going to say that it was deserved. The word I'm going to use is justified. Since winning the World Series in 2019, the Washington Nationals have the second worst composite record in all of baseball. Only Colorado has a worse record. They have now lost, let me get this right, 20 of their last 27 games. They completely cratered this weekend at home against Boston. Mike, they left 15 on last night. 15! You can't leave 15 people on base. Their starters almost always give up multiple runs in the first inning, and their bullpen is statistically the worst bullpen in baseball. So I do think this is justified. You look around, I mean, I'm a fan, I watch. The pitching coach hasn't made the pitchers better. The hitting coach hasn't made the hitters better. Davey's enthusiasm is falling on deaf ears, and Mike Rizzo put together a roster that's not that good. So the Nationals face three significant questions. They got to go get a GM, and they got to first interview people who are impartial so they can find out what's wrong with their team. You got to have that. Then the GM and the owner have to sit down. They have to pick a manager, not for this year, but for the years to come. This year's not going to mean anything. And then the owners have to spend money, Mike. I mean, you have to have skin in the game. You can't be a landlord. You have to decide that you're in this thing to win this thing. I mean, honestly, it's a civic trust. You have to go out there and compete to win. I'm sorry I took all the time, but it's my team. I apologize.
I just remember future like the rest of the summer when your team's not in it. I root for Mike Rizzo, a Chicago Catholic League boy like me. And last I checked, Soto would look good if the batting coach had him. Bryce Harper would look good if the batting coach had him. Max Scherzer would make the pitching coach look better. So I look out there, Trey Turner would make everybody look better. So I look out there every time I'm watching a game, and I watch a lot of baseball right now, every night. There's an ex-National on some team that would make the Nationals look better, except the owners didn't pay to keep them.
That's right. No, you're right. But they made some good trades. They got James Wood and they got Mackenzie Gore, and they are good players. Let's move to last night's Gold Cup soccer final in Houston, in which Mexico beat the United States 2-1 after the United States scored in the third minute. Late in the game, there was a potential handball by Mexico that could have resulted in a U.S. penalty kick, but no call was made. And the go-ahead goal by Mexico was originally nullified for offsides. Then it was reversed on review. The U.S. players and their coach, Mauricio Pochettino, lambasted both calls. Wilbon, you watched the game. What was your takeaway?
It didn't start with officiating. I'm not, that historically neck deep into, soccer that I'm going to jump on the officiating. I will say that handballs confound me all the time because sometimes intent seems to be taken into consideration, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes who's near the play is taken into consideration, sometimes it isn't. So I can't figure that out in offsides. In this case, I'm wondering, okay, are we going to VAR? Is this going to be called offsides? A spectacular play with this double header, no pun intended. But, Tony, I'm looking at the result. And I wonder what the American players, when they have to speak honestly about crowds, in America who are not not rallying behind the Stars and Stripes, what they feel about that, what that means going forward into more competition coming up, depending on where the games are played, what this 2-1 loss when you got a 1-0 lead to Mexico means. So I got more questions, which is the way it should be, as we now get closer and closer, 330 days or whatever it is, to World Cup.
Yeah, I'll just talk about the handball for a second. The guy goes down, he's palming the ball. He's palming the ball on the ground, and then he pushes off the ball in order to get up. I assume that was handball because his hand was on the ball. If there's another explanation, referees have, fine. You can convince me it's not my deal. I think this is a good result for the United States, Mike. They went to the finals. They lost by 1 goal. They were missing 4 or 5 or 6 guys, their best guys who are going to be starters in the World Cup. This was the walk-up narrative to the Gold Cup. Where are these guys? Why aren't they playing? If the United States can get this close with a B team when they have their A team, I think they ought to be encouraged. Let's take a break. But coming up, did the Astros sweep of the Dodgers say more about Houston or L.A.?
Yeah, I don't know how encouraged they should be with that loss. O'Neal Cruz made an unbelievable throw to the plate yesterday. But did Cody Bellinger do something even more impressive? Not to me.
Yeah. The Nats, the owners got a...
Pardon the interruption is brought to you...
Time to check in with the checkered masses. Let's see what's first. Here we go. Which team does the Astros sweep of the Dodgers reveal more about, Houston or Los Angeles?
The Astros. The Astros. And they're both going to be good. They're both almost certainly going to be in the playoffs. They both could be a threat to win the World Series. Hell, they've won 4 World Series out of the last, 8 years between the two of them. But, Tony, what Houston does, and they just keep replacing players. Bregman and Tucker can go on and be all-stars elsewhere. Fine. Replace them. George Springer can go up to Toronto. He can be in another country. Fine. Replace him. Correa, replace him. Dusty Baker, replace him. Verlander, replace him. They scout. They come up with talented people, scout, develop, plug, win. Astros, they may not be as glamorous as the Dodgers, but they're right there as a threat to win it again as much as the Dodgers.
You left one guy out. Jordan Alvarez is on the DL now, and they have to replace him. Here's the thing. They outscored the Dodgers like 29-6 in 3 games, including 18-1 in 1 game, the worst Dodger home loss ever, something like that. I'm going to pass all that stuff off on the Dodgers because you don't want to look too carefully at 3 games in early July when you have 162. But the Dodgers are 20-19, I believe, against teams with winning records. Houston right now is 8-1 against your Cubs, against the Dodgers, against the Phillies, against first-place teams. And they're 19-5 in their last 24. You're 100% right. It says more about the Astros. It says more about the Astros. Here we go.
Astros playing well.
Better outfield play on Sunday, O'Neal Cruz or Cody Bellinger?
Tony, these are 2 great plays, but the O'Neal Cruz play is such a stunner in that he makes this throw. First of all, people could go crazy if they want over the 105 miles per hour. I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
But the ball arrives at home plate in the catcher's mitt at the same time as the hip of a fully striding runner who probably so surprised that he doesn't even slide. The ball has to come loose. It has to be jarred loose, and it isn't. So I'm going to go with the O'Neal Cruz throw, even though Bellinger makes a fine play. Bellinger having a hell of a year. I still like to have him. I'm not sure where he'd play in Chicago. Like to have him anyway. But I'm going to go with Cruz on this particular play.
Yeah, we're going to have an honest disagreement. The Cruz play, it is 105 miles an hour, which leads to the obvious question. Are you going to put him on the mound? Are you going to see if he can pitch? Is he going to be another Shohei Ohtani? You probably have to try. The reason the Bellinger play is better, and the O'Neal Cruz play is great. The Bellinger play is, not only does he have to go down to the shoe tops in order to catch the liner, but he comes up in one motion. And you think he's got a hose? Man, that is like on the money to first base, embarrassing Frankie Lindor, making him look like a little leaguer. So you have a former MVP doing that to a former MVP. It's the only game, I believe, that the Yankees won against the Mets in that particular series. So what I would do, Mike, is I would put Cruz on the mound, and I would save my applause in this case for Bellinger, because to me, Bellinger's play is a perfect play. It's absolutely perfect to me.
Except when you're throwing it home, it's a little bit more impressive than throwing it to first base. To me.
I don't know. The most impressive throw in baseball is from right field to third base. That's the big one. Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come. The Pacers update the status of Tyrese Halliburton for next season.
And the Miami Heat land a 20-point scorer, which could start some dominoes to fall.
Would you not try to see if Cruz could pitch? Wouldn't you have to try to see if he could?
No.
No?
No. No. Like, unless you tell.
Pardon the Interruption is brought to you by One a Day.
Happy time, people. Happy 65th birthday, Ralph Sampson. Although his team never won the NCAA title, Sampson was three-time Collegiate Player of the Year at the University of Virginia, where his number 50 is retired. Sampson was the number 1 overall draft pick by the Houston Rockets in 1983 and was NBA Rookie of the Year in 1984, averaging 21 points and 11 rebounds. But Sampson, at 7'4" with guard skills, was supposed to be a transformational player, much like Victor Wembanyama, and he never was. Sampson was a 4-time All-Star in Houston, but never as impactful as his teammate Hakeem Olajuwon. 3 knee surgeries surely derailed his career, which seems somewhat unfulfilled.
You know, Tony, I feel very fortunate in that I get to see and interact often with Ralph in and around Charlottesville, in and around Washington, D.C. He's still heavily involved with the university. He is as pleasant and as affable. You always love Ralph. I'm going to give you credit for being earlier on Ralph than anybody. But, Tony, here's what you also know. Coaching, I don't mean coaches, coaching failed Ralph. It did not evolve to the point where they knew what to do with him yet. Ralph was an alien to them, and it's too bad because he had every skill in the book, all of which you mentioned, and nobody knew what to do. He was 20 years before his time, maybe 30.
Happy anniversary, Tom Browning. This is posthumous, but on this day 32 years ago, the Reds starting lefty snuck away from his team and spent half an inning lounging out at one of the Wrigleyville rooftop joints in full uniform in the middle of the game against the Cubs. This hilarious move drew a fine from Reds manager Davey Johnson. Browning most famously threw a perfect game in 1988, getting strikes on 70 of his 102 pitches and never going to 3 balls on a single batter. Browning remains the only Cincinnati pitcher to throw a perfect game. Career record 123 and 90, 3.94 ERA, made 1 All-Star game and was on the Reds World Series champs in 1990.
The worse the Cubs were, Tony, the more time I spent on the rooftops. But last year and now, really this summer, the place to be is in the ballpark, not on the rooftops, even if a player wandered over to say hello.
A melancholy trails to Bobby Jenks. The former relief pitcher passed away from stomach cancer on Friday at just 44. Jenks came to fame as the closer for the White Sox during their 2005 World Series title run. Manager Ozzie Guillen would call for Jenks to enter by pantomiming a gesture for the big fella. In all, Jenks saved 173 games for the White Sox over 6 seasons. He could throw over 100 at a time when that was rare, and once retired a major league record-tying 41 consecutive batters.
Wow. Tony, that White Sox team is going to celebrate the 20th anniversary of winning the World Series next week. And Ozzie Guillen, he wasn't saying the big fella when he put his arms out like that. It was comical, it was entertaining, and it's just sad to hear that we've lost Bobby Jenks at this age.
Indeed. Let's go to the big finish if we could.
Let's do
A
it.
three-way NBA trade landed Norman Powell on the Heat and John Collins on the Clippers. Is that a big deal?
Yes, Norman Powell to the Heat. I love that, the way he fits in there, it would seem to me. And Bradley Beal may be on the move and expand that Clipper thing. We'll see. The Pacers confirmed Tyrese Halliburton will miss all of next season with a torn Achilles. Your thoughts?
Two of their three best players are out. Halliburton will miss the whole year, and Miles Turner left. So they're back in the pile with everybody else.
Yeah.
Angel Reese of the Sky says WNBA officiating has to be fixed. Do you agree?
Tony, I don't know, but it's a familiar refrain right now league-wide, so at least it's got to be talked about and studied. Zach Wheeler struck out 12, gave up just one hit in beating the Reds yesterday. You impressed?
He went 9, Mike. He did a complete game. They're so rare. He pitched great and he went 9. That's good. Last one, LeBron has apparently been taking up golf. Do you have any tips for him?
Stay with it. Don't worry about embarrassment. We've all been there. Even great athletes have been there. And the other thing is, go hang out with Karl Anthony Towns, who's taller than you and has the most beautiful swing ever. He and Tony Kukoc of anybody over 6'4".
We're out of time. We will try to do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knuckleheads. You know what's coming. Here's Sports Center.
Karl Anthony Towns, huh?
Bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon, what is your confidence level in the United States men's soccer team heading into next year's World Cup?
Confidence in them doing what? Being in the field? We're a host nation. We're automatically in the field. No, Tony,
Right.
and people need to adjust their expectations. Because if you just look at the current FIFA, the world rankings, okay? Argentina, Spain, France, England, Brazil, the Netherlands, Portugal, Belgium, Italy, Germany. That's the top of it. We're not cracking that. Right now, we're 16th. And somehow we're ranked ahead of Switzerland, Mexico, and Turkey, all of whom have beat us recently. We're 16th.
Right.
We don't have the young players yet like Lamine Yamal, even though very few people do. We have good players. We have more good players maybe than ever, right? Our team may be better. Maybe we'll get to the knockout round. But confidence in what? Winning? People need to slow their roll, as we used to say in the 90s.
This is a great advantage for me not knowing anything about soccer. I'm not burdened in the way that you are burdened by your massive amount of knowledge.
I'm not burdened.
I am encouraged. I'm encouraged by what happened in the Gold Cup, just because we got to the final in the Gold Cup, and yes, we lost. We lost by a goal, and there are some people who would say we got jobbed by officiating. And even if you don't say that, I think that was a pretty good showing when you consider, Mike, that there are 4 or 5 or 6 players who are starters on the World Cup team who did not play. That was the narrative walking up to the Gold Cup. Where are all these great players? Why aren't they playing for the United States? So to me, the fact that we did this well and we're going to add those people makes us better in the World Cup. Do I think we're going to win the World Cup? Of course not. I don't disagree with any of that part of the analysis, but I would be encouraged that we are better than our fears said we were.
Was Argentina in the world? Were they in the Gold Cup just now? Was Spain in the Gold
No.
Cup? France, England, Brazil?
Don't
Stop
think
me.
so.
Netherlands, Portugal,
think so.
Belgium, Italy, Germany. In the Gold Cup?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I was going to say, they didn't
Maybe
cross
not.
my
Not
TV.
maybe not in this Gold Cup. Maybe in another
Yeah, not
Gold
in this
Cup.
Gold Cup.
Maybe in the
Some other
Jockey Gold Cup, but not in this
Yeah,
one.
not this
Right.
one. Just let's tamp it down, people. That's it. We're done. Back to you.